This is Dr. John Tolson, and you're listening to the Disciple Making Podcast. For the past number of weeks, we've been talking about disciple making. And we're going to refer again to that great passage in Matthew in a few moments. But 269 times in the New Testament, the word disciple is used. As we've been saying, if you look all those words up, throw them the top of the funnel, out of the bottom of the funnel, drop three things the word disciple means in the New Testament. Number one, a disciple is a learner. Number two, a disciple is a follower. Number three, a disciple is a reproducer. And that's the one we ended up with last week. So the question today is this: why aren't churches and why aren't individual followers of Jesus making disciples who are making disciples? Well, over the years, as I've trained people around the country and churches around the country, here are some of the excuses that I've heard. Number one, I'm just too busy. Let me ask you a question. Are you going to stand before the Lord someday and He's going to say, where are your disciples and the disciples that they've made and the disciples they've made? And you're really going to look at Him and say, Lord, I was just too busy. I don't think so. Number two, I'm not called. Dear friends, I'm not called either. I'm commanded to make disciples. We're all commanded to be a disciple maker. Number three, well, it's just meant for the pros, the professionals, the paid clergy. Wrong again. Here's another one. I don't know enough. I need more information. Well, wrong again. Or, I just don't want to be fanatical. I don't want to I just want to go to church. I don't want to get too involved in this Christianity stuff. Or if you're a follower of Christ, you got to get involved. I also believe that most pastors don't disciple because they've never been discipled. And I have good credibility for this response, as I've talked to pastors, again, all across the country. In fact, the two graduate schools I went to, during the time I went there, never offered one course on Matthew 28 as it focused on disciple making. Not one time, not one course. Most pastors, I think, see disciple making as just another item on a long list of responsibilities they have. And so they're weary already and just don't want to take another thing on. I think another one is in the city where I live, disciple making is I guess it can be described like this. It's kind of like backing up a biblical theological truck, dumping out all the information and pulling off and saying, we discipled you. So in other words, it is an information dump. That is not, my dear friends, making disciples who are making disciples who are making disciples. So here's the bottom line of this whole subject. In Matthew 28, Jesus said this: go and make disciples. Who make disciples? Who make disciples? And so therefore, what this really all comes down to is one issue. Do I believe what Jesus said or not? And am I willing to do what He said or not? In other words, it's a matter of obedience. The scripture says in John chapter 14, verse 15, and Jesus Himself said, if you love me, do what I tell you to do. If you love me, do what I tell you to do. So the question is, will you choose to obey Him? You think about that. Thanks for listening to the Disciple Making Podcast. Check out our website at thetolsongroup.com and sign up for my weekly encouraging videos called Red Glasses Talks to come to your email every Monday morning. You can also find me at Dr. John Tolson on social media. I'd appreciate it if you'd leave me a review and share with a friend.